Hi guys, this is Natalie. I'm doing something a little bit different here than what I would normally create. I'm doing a brief walkthrough through ProTools first. ProTools is a piece of software that's really good for audio editing that I use pretty frequently to create pretty much everything that's you can hear that shows up on my channel. And recently they've released a free version of it that's it's partially web-based, and you do have to be connected to the internet most of the time to use it. There is a little bit of offline function, but it basically allows you to utilize the vast majority of what a light user of Pro Tools would want out of Pro Tools, and it's completely free. It's Mac compatible and it's also Windows compatible, and so far it handles really, really well compared to the full version of Pro Tools. I've had a couple friends who are really interested in utilizing it, but it's a little bit of a daunting piece of software to get into right away. So I was just like, what the heck, I've got this software that I can use to demonstrate it. I'm just going to go ahead and make a tutorial. I'm not going to have a lot of this content on my channel, so if this isn't really your thing, totally feel free to skip it. But really what I'm trying to do is make a brief tutorial so you can get started recording as someone who might be just doing this as a voice actor or even a sound designer, where you really don't need the functionality of Pro Tools as a musical tool, and more as something you would use as a content creator, someone who's podcasting or doing audiobooks or something. This is a great free tool, and it has so much juice behind it. I drank the Kool-Aid on this one pretty hard. So I'm just going to go through and cover this, and again, I've got some more content coming up soon that I'm really excited about, but here's just a brief overview of getting started with Pro Tools first. Now, right away, I'm going to apologize. My recording software for screen recording does not use my good mic, so you're hearing my awesome laptop mic, yay! But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this, but in this one, I'm not going to cover too much of what you can do with the plugins. I may do that as a separate video and walk through what you can really do to beef up your audio, even if it's not that good. Because Pro Tools has a lot of that available, and I love it. So, all right. To get started, when you first launch Pro Tools, you're going to get the option to create a program. Pro Tools first does limit you to 3 projects for free, and then after that you have to actually buy more. I think they're microtransactions, nothing too extensive. I haven't really looked into it. We can actually see if I go over to this open tab that I've got 3 already designated. I've got an Elysium dialogue editing project open. I've got, this is the comic dub I did not too long ago, and then I've just got a kind of generic voiceover recording project already set up. And what happens is that as soon as I finish up a project in one, I can blow out everything I was working on, or I can even just delete this project and create a new one. You just are limited to having 3 at any given time unless you buy additional projects. As far as I'm concerned, I haven't run into an issue with that because I'm really just using this as a dialogue editing software right now. I have the full version of Pro Tools on my desktop, and so if I'm doing something like mixing a full episode of Elysium, I don't want to do that on my laptop. It's just a mess. So this is definitely good as a light use program, and I think you are limited to something like 16 tracks on this, which for the vast majority of people working with Pro Tools, that's plenty. You're not going to need more than that in a lot of applications. So this is really great, again, for getting started. If you're creating something, you do have this option where you can create from a template. I believe that gives you pre-established tracks. They'll put in some auxes and your master fader for you, which has to do with how you send audio through different effects and different groupings. If you're really audio savvy, that might be helpful and give you a template to start from, but most of the time You're really not going to need that. I usually just start without a template, and to do that you can go ahead and hit create. I've already got something open though, so I'm going to hit cancel for the time being. Now, when you first open Pro Tools, you're not going to have tracks immediately available to you. It's just this blank, empty space, a brand new canvas for you to work with. You might recognize or see some commonality with other audio software you've worked with, but there's definitely some differences. And one of the big hurdles for Pro Tools and learning it is figuring out how do I get it to do things I know it can do, and where are those different commands and options that I can utilize. If you're coming to this with experience with something maybe a little bit more standard like Audacity or WavePad, GoldWave, a lot of times you may be pretty used to just hitting record and then there instantly being a track that appears with your recording just right away. Pro Tools doesn't do that because it's going to be expecting you to have your project set up, and your tracks are already going to be designated what kind of device is recording into that track, and you actually have to set up that track to start recording. It's thinking very much in a type of environment where you're going to have more than one device recording at a time, like if you're a band recording multiple instruments at the same time and have 30 different mics spread around the room, or even if you're just something like an audio drama where there's multiple people standing around like 3 or 4 different mics, and you want a different track and for each to record the signal from each mic. So that's where we're going to run into some stuff where you have to think more with that mentality than it's just click and go and why isn't it recording? This thing's broken. I don't want to deal with it. So the thing we're looking to do before we get started or before we can start recording is we need a track. Your track is going to be a container of audio, and if there's nothing to contain your audio, there's nothing for us to record in. So I'm going to go ahead and click the track drop down up at the top and select new. One of the things you may want to pay attention to as you click on things is what combination of keys will open these functions. Another great thing about Pro Tools is almost everything is tied to different keystrokes or hotkeys. And as you learn those hotkeys, like opening up a new track, I can use my hotkeys to do that and avoid having an extra mouse stroke in there. As you start editing audio a lot or have to do so in a huge bulk amount, hotkeys really become lifesavers for you. They're great. And so as you learn those, that really helps speed up your process and just help you make more smart decisions. Now, the main thing when we create a new track is we're looking for how many tracks we want to create, and I could put in whatever number I want. I don't think Pro Tools would actually let me add that many in because, or at least first wouldn't let me add that in. Regular Pro Tools you can, but you'd have to have a whole computer dedicated to that. Nobody wants, well, I want that, but that's beside the point. So anyways, I'm going to create a single track, and another important thing is that most of the time, unless you've bought a mic specifically to record in stereo, you are recording into a mono device with a microphone. So you do want to have a mono track selected if you're going to be recording directly into Pro Tools. And your track type, it's going to be an audio track. If I make another video, I'll talk about aux inputs and master faders, but right now we just want mono audio, and if we're just recording voiceover, it's just going to be that one single track. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create. And right away, we have a track here, which is a container for our audio. Before we go any further, though, we also want to make sure that Pro Tools recognizes our audio device. We want to make sure of that right away before we start spinning too many wheels. To do that, we're going to go ahead and click Setup, and then select this hardware option here. What this does is actually open up your audio setup for your computer itself. And the main thing you want to make sure is that underneath that particular device, that it's selected if it's a microphone as an input, because an input is going to be a device that's collecting audio versus an output, which is something that's going to produce audio, like speakers or your headphones or something like that. The other thing is that your format is set to either 41 or 48 kilohertz, 44.1 or 48. I'm just dyslexic enough to be dangerous. And the reason for that is these are very standard, very acceptable audio formats. Sampling rates is what it specifically has to do with. And sometimes it'll default upwards of like 96K, and that's just going to create an unnecessarily large file that you really don't need for probably any application you're going to be using Pro Tools first for. So just right off the bat, you may want to make sure that it's selected to that, so you're not creating these huge unnecessarily big files that are just bogging down things. So I've got that selected, it's an input, and it's 44.1 kilohertz. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of audio devices. Now, one of the ways I know that this is connected is that I can see that my preamp is reading, or is clearly reading signal from my microphone. And another way is that if I go ahead and hit this button right here, which is Record Enable, I see a green light here on my meter that's indicating that I'm picking up signal clearly, and Pro Tools can see that. Again, the reason I have to record enable this track is this is telling Pro Tools, yes, I want to start recording audio to this track when I go ahead and hit record. Again, this is built in again with this mentality that you might be recording a lot of people, and this is built to be a studio program. This is used, this is an industry standard program for just about any audio production company that you'd be working with. So this is built very much with professionals in mind, and it is graspable by people who are not professional audio engineers, but you just have to think more with that mentality and not with a lowest common denominator kind of thought process. So once you have your track recording enabled, you might think, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and hit record. It also will not hit record. It will not start recording right away. We have now record enabled our entire project. The reason this really comes in handy is that sometimes, again, if you're recording to multiple tracks at the same time, you want to get those tracks ready to go, then you want to get your project ready to go, and then what actually starts your project recording is to hit the space bar. And we can go ahead and see that if I lean over and talk directly into my mic, or my good mic, that I'm now recording audio. We can see the waveforms being created pretty much in real time for us, and because it's bright red, we know this is audio that's live and being recorded, and we can see it's at a really nice level, and you can actually monitor this to make sure that you're not peaking too loudly. Your meter will tell you if you're peaking over here, if it goes up into the red, and if your audio gets so big that it's filling the track and squaring off at the top, that's another sign that you're peaking or distorting your audio. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the space bar again to stop it, and notice that your project doesn't stay armed to record. If you wanted to record again, I'd have to click it again and then hit the space bar. Again, this is just more of a professional mentality of how you want your projects to be armed and ready to go. And it's usually just a matter of an additional keystroke to get everything started. One thing that comes in handy really quick is a hotkey. Hitting return brings you right back to the beginning of your project. It's a little thing, but I use this so many times, it's just great. So now that I've recorded, I'm going to go ahead and disable my track. That won't matter too much to us here, but if you do start using your plugins, which are these insert options here, and you can see that clicking on that, you've got EQ, you've got a compressor, de-esser, expander, reverb, delay, you've got some instrument basics, and then you've got a signal generator. And so there's a lot of different options here. But if your track is record enabled, those will be temporarily bypassed until that track is done record enabled. That just has to do a lot with the processing power of the program and not overloading it, especially on a smaller system. I know there are ways you can bypass that, but I haven't had any applications where I've needed to do that, so that doesn't bother me at all. But it will bother you if your plugins aren't working and you realize, oh, my track is still record enabled. No wonder I can't hear my noise removal or all that EQing and compressing I just spent 5 minutes tweaking. So anyway, now that I've got this here, one of the things I'll immediately want to start doing is editing this audio. I'm actually doing this zoom in and out by using the hotkeys of Command, open and close brackets, and that just zooms in and out, and it's a lot easier than going down here and having to click on your zoom in and out or drag this, this setting at all. So I use that one excessively too. Right away I've got this selected, which is the selector tool, which means I can highlight whatever audio I don't want and I can just delete that out. Now I've got 3 seconds of silence at the beginning, and if I wanted to go ahead and slide my audio right over to the beginning, I can switch over to what's called the grabber tool up here at the top, which gives me this hand icon, and I can just go ahead and drag my audio. I can even drag my audio all the way back out here if I don't want it to start until 25 seconds out. Most of the time, you want your audio to start right at the beginning. You can toggle between these on a Mac. Command 3, you can see, switches you over to the selector. Command 4 will bring you over to the grabber. I think it might be Alt 3 and Alt 4 with Windows, but again, you may just want to check with a manual to see what the correlation is there. We've got this additional tool here, which is your trim tool. You might have run into trim tools in like video editing, which is pretty common. And what that just lets you do is highlight the beginning or the end of a track or of a clip of audio. And you can go ahead and drag that in, and it'll just delete off anything extra on the ends that you don't want. And that comes in really handy if you've got like 30 seconds of dead space at the beginning or the end of a project while you're getting in and out of the booth, or messing with your script, or just finishing things up. Now, another thing that really comes in handy and that I use extensively in Pro Tools is these two different things called slip mode and shuffle mode. I already have slip mode selected right over here. It's in green. Slip mode is your default most of the time with Pro Tools. The reason for that is if I were to go ahead and zoom in and go, okay, this bit of audio right here, that was a flub. I don't need that. I want to get rid of that. If I were to highlight that and then blow that out, great, it's gone. But what would happen is I'd then have to go ahead and go, hit grabber tool, slide, new, clip over, so that way there's this kind of seamless transition here. Now, if I back up and put that back in there, what I can do, and this is usually something you would want to use if you're editing a single line of audio. This comes in so much handy with dialogue editing. I cannot stress this enough. If you're working with a single line of audio as a voice actor, shuffle mode, which is this sucker right over here, this is your friend. Because what it lets you do is you can highlight what you want, and when you blow that out, it slides all of the rest of your audio in that clip along those lines. So let's say I go through here again, I realize, I got another little thing I don't want, slip, and it just slides it right on over for you. It's so handy. I love this. And if you do ever need to get to the point where you want 5 seconds of audio in there, you can switch right back over to slip mode and you can drag and drop. Another thing that really comes in handy to kind of combine some different techniques is if I'm in shuffle mode and I blow something out and I go, oh crap, I don't want to do that, or I wanted only half of that, or I need a little bit more silence or a breath or something like that in there, I can use that trim tool that I mentioned, that Command 2 or Alt 2, and notice I have multiple clips now. and I can go ahead and drag that out like this, and that will go ahead and pull back in whatever I just deleted. Because if I went out all the way here, this was that little bit that I thought was, you know, something bad, but when I deleted it, I kind of cut this little breath here in half, like this. So what I can do is I can just back that up a little bit until that whole breath is in there, and then bam, it's at a much cleaner point of cutting off. So again, these are just tools that will come in handy as you start to learn how to cut and combine and move between them. It's really super handy. So let's say I finish editing all of this and I go, oh, here's another little thing. I'm just going to get rid of that. Awesome. So I'm going to zoom out and take a look at what I've got here and pull that all into one big view where I can see it. Okay, cool. You know, not the end of the world, but I do have 5 little chunks of audio here, and it's not as nice and neat. What I can do is switch over to the grabber tool, and then if I start here and then hold down the shift key and click at the end of this, it'll go ahead and highlight all of them for me. And then I can use what's called the group option. And let's see, what is that under? I'm so used to using hotkeys, but I want to show how you can do this. Okay, so under the clip drop down up here, you have this option called group. And what that does is that combines everything you just edited into a group. You can also use the Alt-Command-G to get this. And we get this group option, which is just audio1.grp. And if you've been noticing that there are these different titles for all these different audio pieces and audio clips, they're all showing up over here in what's called the clip bin. The clip bin is a really, really helpful tool if you want to organize just your groups or all this little audio. The key distinctions here are that anything in bold is going to be your original audio. Like if you recorded a single chunk of audio into here, audio 1-01 is going to be that original piece. It's in bold, so it's really clear that that's that audio. And then let's say I went through and made 5 different edits, and broke it down into 5 little pieces. What audio 101-101 all the way through here is every single little edit. So it keeps track of absolutely everything, even if it's just this little gap of silence that you cut out of something. It keeps track of that. It's incredible. And so you have that option, and you can even use this drop down right here to decide what you want to sort by and how much you actually want to show. You can have this so you only see the original files and then your group files, which really comes in handy if you've recorded like a billion things and your clip bin is showing you every last little edit you made, which is a good and a bad thing sometimes. But it's really helpful. And what I'll tend to do is I'll go through and after I've done a run record like if I'm recording a commercial and the raw audio itself is like 2 minutes long for a 30-second spot. By the time I get done editing all the takes I like together into kind of this coherent whole, I'll have about 20 different clips, all, of the different audio broken down from my original, bold, full audio clip of the raw audio. And then what I'll do is I'll create a group of that and then name it, final take. And the way I'm doing that is you literally just double click on the name and then you can name it. The name will automatically derive from what your track is called. So if I were to call this commercial or something like that, and then go ahead and record something new, oops, nope. But if I were to go ahead and record something new like this, and I'm going to let this record for a second, now when I hit stop, notice this is called commercial 101.101, and over in my clip bin, also here, that's that file. And if I was even to delete this out, the cool thing about the clip bin, and I love this, is you can drag that original clip over, and we're in shuffle mode, so everything's slipping together. So if I'm in shuffle mode, I can move this out anywhere I want. And that's my raw audio. And if I decided, oh wait, my final take wasn't as good as I wanted, I can go and drag my original audio and go find those little pieces that I blew out, like this one, and then go ahead and go, oh, whoop, 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 never mind, I want this over here. That sort of a deal. So that's so handy. I love the clip bin. And that's really good too if, like, I recorded, let's say final take was this commercial I recorded in September. And I have long since moved on. I'm not looking, I haven't worked on that. But then I get a client who says, oh, hey, remember that project you worked on? I need you to add a different ending. The client decided that they want a different tagline on the end. What I can do is go ahead and say, all right, my final take, this is my group file of that final, of all those takes I really liked. I don't want to just go ahead and drag my raw audio file out. I want that final polished one because I just want to tack on a new ending to it. I can go ahead and just drag that right on out, and there's my polished group file of the audio I really liked. It's all one big single clip here that I can work with really easily. I can go ahead and record my new tag on like this, and then I'm going to trim off this really quick over here, and then go ahead and slide that over. So that's my new tag there. And then I can recombine this into a group, name this into, so my last one was final take. So this is going to be final take with new tag, and hit OK. And now that's going to be available in my clip bin. And some people really get very, very specific on how they use this naming convention, but it's so helpful if you're trying to track long-term projects. You do have the option too of clearing out, let's see, what you can do is you can select unused clips or unused audio except for the whole files, which you see, notice that all of our bold ones, our bold files aren't selected, and only the unused audio is selected, and then you can just go ahead and clear that right on out, and that helps shrink our clip bin down tremendously. None of your audio is getting deleted with that. That's just the reference to those unused clips that you're not using. So there's a lot of different cool ways you can work with that. So now let's say I've got this finished commercial that I'm ready to export for one of my clients. I've played it back, I've made sure that my levels are good, maybe I've added, a lot of times when I'm sending files to a client, I'm doing noise removal, which unfortunately, one of the minor disadvantages to Pro Tools First is that you can't use third-party plugins. So that negates my ability to just use my Waves N1 noise removal, which I swear by at this point. But I can do that in a different piece of software. Like I've got Logic on this computer, so I'll just go ahead and run that through afterwards. But I can go ahead and slap on like a de-esser, which is really good if you want to get rid of some really harsh sibilances. It'll just cut those off so those aren't muddying up your audio too much. And that's pretty much all I need. So what I can do then is go ahead and export out. I'm going to export an audio mix. That's really the only option I have since I just have a single clip of a file, and hit audio mix. You have the option of what your mixdown source will be. Usually you want to make sure that that's identical to whatever your output on your track is set to. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten my outputs mixed up, because if you have more than one, sometimes there'll be some issues where it'll default like alphabetically. So you just want to make sure that, just double check that. You have different file types of WAV or AIFF. Mono summed is really helpful because by default our output we'll see is 1 and 2, so those are 2 tracks, which is stereo. Mono is just combining those two into a single mono file, just summing them together. If you wanted to export a stereo track, you would choose interleaved. I don't know why it's called that. It's interleaved. Multiple mono is going to still give you the 2 tracks. They're just going to be separate files, which is a really big pain. You also have the option if you want to convert down or up. Obviously, you can't really add anything that isn't there, but if you want to convert, like if you know you have to have this super low quality file, you can do like 16-bit and 8 kilohertz or something like that. The full version of Pro Tools actually gives you the ability to export into MP3, which is super helpful. But those are just a couple of options you can use. And then your directory is where you're actually choosing where that file is going to save to. And once you've selected that, you just hit the export option. Your file is exported out, and that's pretty much the workflow of what you would need to do to get to record, edit, and then export a single audio file. Again, I think I might go through and walk through maybe some basic routing and plugin usage at a different time, but hopefully this is a good baseline for getting started with Pro Tools first, especially with this mentality that you might not be coming into this with a lot of experience, and you definitely don't want to come into it with music. And that's my biggest complaint with a lot of tutorials is it's musicians, and musicians are great, but they have totally different needs when it comes to audio software than you might need as a voice actor or a sound designer. So this is just my recommendations for how to get started with Pro Tools. And if you have any questions, definitely feel free to ask me anything in the comments, and I'm happy to help. I hope this has been helpful, and again, I might do another one, we'll see. But thanks for sticking around this long if you have. All right, catch you later.